Come back to focusing inward. So everything in you can unite. The unification of you is what keeps you alive. To the extent that the different parts of you are getting along, you're alive. To the extent that they're not getting along, there's less life. Unification is consciously assisting the healing process that's always happening inside of us. It's a physical healing process, but the physical is just a container. The matter is just the external manifestation of energy, the energy that created it, the energy that is spiritual. The thoughts and the feelings that created the interpretation that resides within each cell. To the extent that these cells represent interpretations that get along with each other, the cells themselves are getting along with each other. To the extent that there is spiritual unity, there is also physical unity. This can also be seen in larger organisms, like human beings. If there are human beings together and their spiritual interpretations are in conflict, then also physically they cannot get along, they cannot work with each other. If spiritually they are united, then they can work as one heart. Then they can be one. Being one is being healthy. This is the nature of reality. In the microcosm and in the macrocosm. In the individual and in the collective. To find a place where everyone can unite. The spirits within the organs need to be trained how to be forgiving, kind, and loving. This is the nature that creates unity. In order to teach our organs, the collective spirit within our body, the spirit that represents all the organs combined, needs to demonstrate. We demonstrate when we interact. Every interaction is also a demonstration of a relationship. A demonstration of a relationship between the one that's perceiving and what is being perceived. That relationship gets created within the cells. That behavior gets created within the organs. So to unite means to work together for one purpose. All the organs and the limbs were created to work together for one purpose. The purpose is you, the perception. The perception that is a child from a deeper perception, from a collective perception that creates the child perception, the perception that is the result of residing within a body. All parts, all pieces of matter, everything that is you, can be united from their spiritual side. You take hold of your cells from the spiritual side. The spiritual side is the side of perception. Through perception, you reside in your cells and you command your cells with your imagination. The being that's alive inside the heart is also alive in every cell. But not every cell has the same awareness, not every cell has the same wisdom about its relationship to the whole. Just like not every human being has the same wisdom about its relationship to the whole. Those who are more informed about their relationship to the whole are closer to acting in your best interest. Those who have completely forgotten the relationship with the whole are the beginning of a disease. Because we are all, just like our cells, parts of a bigger whole. A whole that is the cause of all its parts. The part is playing a part in something that is much larger than it. The individual awareness is playing a role in a consciousness that is much bigger than it. The neuron is causing life to happen in a way that is trillions of times bigger than it. And yet every neuron is the cause of the awareness that is the result of all of them. Every human is the cause of the awareness that creates life. The interpretation the human being is giving is going to cause how the being sees itself, the collective being, the being that is all. Through the lens of human perception, the Infinite One sees his creation. So when we unite, we're not simply uniting ourselves. We're uniting the root of the collective. We're making the collective realize something about itself that was and always will be true. And yet the collective has forgotten. The collective has forgotten their own nature, they've forgotten their relationship with each other and with the self that is everywhere, that is everything, that is the cause and the effect of everything that is. The individual cannot have an identity beyond being a part of the collective, just like a cell in our body cannot have an identity beyond who we are as a whole. Every cell in our body is us. Every cell is the collective. Every cell defines the collective. Every cell is causing the experience of the collective. That's the nature of the being. The body is a demonstration of one being many. The universe is a demonstration of one being many. Uniting within, and automatically everything is uniting without. This is the nature of life. This is how we direct reality. And this is also true when we don't unite. It's always true. We're always projecting to the external world what we believe in our internal world. And by projecting it, we make it real. We maneuver within reality until our projections seem to be real. And so, our internal realization of unity is simply going to use all our energy to help the process of life rather than to obstruct the process of life. Unification has to include acceptance, because if there's no acceptance, then there's something inside of us that's not willing to join. And that something is holding our energy back, is holding our energy in a state of resistance. And so then we have less access. And so this unification constantly is going deeper and deeper, because whenever we reach a deeper level, there are different things that might awaken that we would resist, because we now have a new interpretation, a new perception. We realize again the importance of life and the meaning of all the events and the interconnection between everything that is, everything that was, and everything that will be. And so again, we have to surrender in order to attain a deeper level of unity. Humanity will need to forgive itself for all the atrocities that it committed against itself before there can be unity. There are so many grudges. Some have been going for decades, some have been going for centuries, some have been going for millennia. And all these conflicts need to be healed before there can be unity. Conflict is a result of the human awareness losing touch with the awareness, the source, the consciousness that created it. Because from that consciousness we can always bring forth unity, a unity that will heal all wounds. And that's the only worthwhile option at any given point. There are no resolutions to conflicts. They're going to make life any better unless we regain access to the source of life. Because from there, we can always recreate a version that will heal all wounds. And the wounds are so many because the layers that we have added to reality are so many. The assumptions that we've made about who we are, and then came to conclusions based on those assumptions, and then came to conclusions based on those conclusions, until we've long forgotten on what assumptions all of these conclusions were built. Until we don't even realize that had we remembered those assumptions with the intelligence we have now, we would pretty quickly come to realize that these assumptions are false. And yet the conclusions, which have been based on other conclusions, which were based on other conclusions that were based on assumptions, seem to be so sophisticated because they've been built on top of a very weak foundation. Every conclusion that is not real is a wound to the life force, is a wound to the spirit. The life force can only reside in reality. It can never leave reality, no matter how much we assume. And no matter if all of humanity agrees, the life force cannot leave reality. All of humanity, as far as their awareness is concerned, could leave humanity, and they could leave reality, and they have left reality. But the life force is grounded in the truth. It cannot leave. And so perception has left, and yet reality remains. Perception of the child, perception of human awareness, not perception of the source. Perception of the source is the root, is the cause of all the conclusions that result in human perception. His conclusions are permanent. The awareness that created permanent conclusions of how it wants life to be. The awareness within humanity is trying to come to the same conclusions, and yet it came to very different conclusions, because it came to conclusions based on false assumptions. So the reality that creates us, those are his conclusions. The reality that we create Those are our conclusions. The unity is the source of all conclusions, his and ours. When we go back to the unity, we're going back to him. We're going back before there were any conclusions. We're going back before there are any assumptions. We're going back to a place that can never be contaminated. We're going back to a place that has been the way that it is from before there was creation. Creation means from one came many. That's the definition of creation. Creation does not mean creating something separate. That would be impossible. Creation means that there was originally one, and then from that one there was a multitude, and that multitude was created from that one, because there was nothing else to create with. There was no one else that could create. There was nowhere else to create. And that truth is still the truth. That truth did not change with creation. That truth was concealed by creation. It did not change. It only changed in perception. And therefore, it needs to be healed in perception. Perception is what we're in charge of. If we're going to fix what is wrong with this world, we're going to fix it by changing something inside of us. That's the only way to fix it. That's the only place where it's not yet fixed. So returning to the unity is returning to the place that was before there was something to fix. A place that cannot be broken and cannot be fixed. And yet, by going back to that place, we, the broken ones, can become fixed. The awareness that has been fractured and fragmented and conflicted can return to realizing the nature of its own unity.